Welcome to the Practical Growth Podcast. I'm your host, E.B. Johnson, top writer on Medium.com, published author, and master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. You've landed on the podcast that takes you on a journey into the heart of relationships and self-discovery. This is a must listen for those who are ready to overcome their toxic relationships and their toxic patterns. You can expect real talk, practical guidance, and raw and relatable guests that you'll be talking about for weeks. Let's get into it. Hello again, my lovelies. It is me, E.B. Johnson, your favorite Medium.com writer, your favorite podcast host, and your favorite viral TikTok educator. And I am back again with another episode that's going to enlighten you. It's going to illuminate you, and it's going to shine a light on a big topic that I get literally questions on every single day. I get questions about this topic every single day. So we're going to get into it. Forgiveness. There are so many of these self-recovery gurus and self-help experts online, even therapists and counselors, who tell us that if we are really going to get past our childhood trauma, if we're going to heal, if we're going to reach the quote unquote finish line that they promise us, we have to forgive. So how true is that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Forgiveness. What is the truth about forgiveness and recovery and trauma? And how do we forgive? Who do we forgive? Why do we forgive? We're going to get into all of that today. But first, a few quick housekeeping things. Number one, applications are open for my one-on-one private coaching program. This is where you get to work with me one-on-one, privately, no one else, via Zoom every week for 8 weeks. And what we do is we break into it. We get to the root of the problems that you're feeling mentally, emotionally, in your relationships, in your career, and we realign you. We start by reconditioning your nervous system. We help you to cognitively reprogram yourself, and then we create a plan for emotional regulation and for neuroplastic processing. So if you literally want to rewire your brain, if you want to align yourself with your true values, your true beliefs, the correct behaviors that will bring you the love you want, that will bring you the money you want, the success you want, the peace that you want mentally and emotionally, then this is how you do it. This is a serious course. I only take on 6 individuals at a time. So if you want to apply for that, you need to go to therealebjohnson.com. Again, this is not for the faint of heart, and it's not for people who are just looking for a fluff me to talk every week and just make you feel good about yourself. My program, my 8-week private coaching program, is about getting results. It's about every week sitting down, getting to the bottom of what's going on, and actively changing it so that the week ahead is better than the one behind. So that's for one-on-one coaching. If you want to be a part of that, then again, you need to head to therealebjohnson.com and you need to click on working with me to apply. There's only a few seats left. So get in there if you're serious about making changes this year. Now, number 2, if that's not for you, if that sounds a little too intense, then my group coaching program is open. This is a really great group, totally compassionate individuals, caring, supportive individuals, experienced as well, right? We have a lot of people in there with counseling and therapy experience and professional experience as well. It's a really, really great group. So if you want to start building a community for yourself and still get some coaching by me, then this is the group you need to join. If you want to find out more, you can head over to patreon.com/practicalgrowth. That's patreon.com/practicalgrowth. And you can find all the details there about joining my monthly coaching membership. It is just such a heartwarming group. They're so lovely. And every week we do a live workshop where we get together and we break down serious issues, whether it's narcissistic abuse, toxic relationships, regulating our nervous systems, treatment options, all of the above. So if you want to get on that, if you want to experience coaching with me and start building a community for yourself, then, head over to patreon.com/practicalgrowth and make it happen. All right, boom, housekeeping over. So let's jump into it. Let's get into it. Forgiveness. If you are someone who's been in therapy for a long time, if you're someone who's been reading a lot of self-help books, you've been looking for answers about your trauma, you've been really just trying to figure things out, then you have encountered forgiveness, right? There's like no topic bigger when it comes to survivors, survivor spaces, and kind of getting back to a sense of peace. At some point, you encounter the idea of forgiveness, forgiving the people that hurt you, forgiving yourself. And it's always poised as this like finish line. It's like this mystical, magical finish line. And once you find it in yourself to be, quote unquote, the bigger person and forgive those who hurt you, you will magically be healed and you will magically be zen. There's a few things wrong with this, right? There's a few things wrong. First of all, it turns forgiveness into something completely different. It turns forgiveness, instead of it being this kind of act, this freeing act, it turns it into a kind of sanctimonious gift that you're supposed to give away out of this feeling of superiority, which is the second problem with this kind of idea of forgiveness that's been built into these self-help communities, right? Forgiveness is not a release. It's not this letting go. It's not a relinquishment or an acceptance of self. No. It's all about being the bigger person, being better than somebody. Oh, if you can forgive this person who consciously hurt you, then you are better than them and you can look down on them and you can, again, be sanctimonious. You can be self-righteous. It's, again, it feeds that narcissistic part of ourselves, that really like selfish part of ourselves that's really easy to lean into. That's what forgiveness has been turned into, but that's not what forgiveness is, right? That's not what it is. Essentially, forgiveness is kind of a gift, but it's a gift that you give to yourself. It is a gift that you give to yourself. And it is forgiving yourself for the bad decisions that you made when you didn't know better. It's forgiving yourself for the bad decisions that you made when you did know better. It's acceptance. It's self-acceptance, and it's making peace with the things that bring you guilt, that bring you shame, that bring you pain, that make you feel bad or as though you have to settle for less. That's the gift of forgiveness, okay? It's not a gift that you hoist onto someone else, okay? It's kind of more of a state of being. It's not something you can just hand to somebody else and then feel a sense of superiority. That's just ego. More than anything else, forgiveness is a personal power, just more than anything else. It's like a skill that we cultivate for ourselves and by ourselves. It starts with us. If you can't first forgive yourself for the guilt and shame that you feel when you know all the explanations, when you know all that compassion is deserved, then there's no forgiving anybody else if they even deserve it, which we're going to get into in a minute. So you have to look at yourself with empathy and love and not look at it as a tool to feel superior. Where is the forgiveness in that? Superiority is not forgiveness, okay? It's just you like getting the upper hand on someone. Venturing on from those two huge flaws, you then have the problem of these spaces, these gurus, which quite frankly, some of them are evil. They're evil in the way they spread this message and what it ultimately pushes the people who listen to them, pushes survivors to do. They push this idea that you have to give forgiveness. You have to give it, even if the person on the other side doesn't want it. They don't want it. I always use myself as an example because they say, write what you know, talk about what you know, and I know myself better than anyone else, and my experience is better than anyone else's. So we'll just use that. The people who have harmed me have not ever once looked me in the eye and said to me, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Never, ever. They have never come to me asking for that resolve. They either want to sweep it under the bed if they speak to me, or they're just not going to speak to me at all. And they expect me to come to them and to grovel and to apologize for my negative reactions to their bad behavior and their abuse, right? Why would I dig into the deepest parts of my pain and offer that person a totally clean slate, an open door, a state of personal power over me, when they've shown no remorse? First of all, it's arrogant. Who gives a gift to someone that doesn't want the gift? Okay, that's just like, again, toxic and sanctimonious, controlling and manipulative. Number two, Why would you give that gift to someone that doesn't even feel remorseful, that's ultimately not going to show gratitude for that gift? It's absolutely insane. I'm not going to offer up forgiveness, drop battle lines for someone that doesn't show remorse, because if they don't show remorse, they don't feel bad about what they did. If they don't feel bad about what they did, then they still behave that way. If they still have those behaviors, then they still have the nasty, ridiculous, disgusting beliefs beneath those behaviors that caused the abusive patterns in the first place. So if someone doesn't show remorse, they haven't changed. They're going to do it again. Why would you forgive someone like that? This is what these spaces teach. They don't follow through with logic. It makes no sense to forgive someone when you look at those realities, and telling people to hand over that huge gift to abusers who are going to abuse again. It's ridiculous. Now, there's a reason that we don't give forgiveness to abusers and other certain people, which I'm going to get into again. As I said, we're going to jump into that. But before you can accept that these certain people don't get your forgiveness, that they don't get access to that, you need to understand what kind of builds into forgiveness, how forgiveness plays out, how it manifests, and why you don't give it away lightly. Okay. There's 5 essential elements to forgiveness. 1, it's like love and agreeableness. Okay. It's kind of openness, and it shows a capacity for love and a capacity for understanding. That understanding folds into the second element, compassion. It's saying, I see and understand what you've done, even if it's hurt me, even if it was wrong. That's a pretty risky thing to give away to someone who wants to continue those behaviors. Within forgiveness is also emotional stability. When you are able to forgive, it does clear the slate in a way that allows you to reach emotional closure and therefore emotional peace. And that empathy and genuineness are the last 2 elements of that. Empathy is the ability to think and feel as someone else thinks and feels. And again, risky to give away to a toxic person. And then the last element within that is genuineness. It's being fully vulnerable, fully as you are. And again, you don't want to give that to someone who's shown a pattern of weaponizing it and who has not shown remorse or willingness to change that pattern. So who then doesn't deserve our forgiveness? Who is not worth forgiving? Because I am saying that. Some people don't deserve to be forgiven. Now, that doesn't mean you run out and destroy their lives or that you do smear campaigns against them. It just means you draw a line and they are never, ever, ever allowed to cross that line into your life ever again, because you see them, you know them, and you've marked it. Okay, that's it. That's all refusing to forgive someone is. It's saying, you don't get to get back in. I know what you are. And until you are fully and wholly accountable for what you've done, and there is justice for what you've done, you stay away from me. That's all it means when you don't forgive someone, okay? It's not open conflict. It is you get no access. So who doesn't get that? Who doesn't get that access of, I see you, I accept it, I understand, I love you, let's keep a door open? Who doesn't get that? 1, the people who hurt you intentionally, okay? And even if hurting you was not their primary intent, if they did something that they knew consciously would hurt you, would hurt the people around them, would get them in trouble, okay? Those people don't deserve to be forgiven unless they show significant remorse. And that includes abusive parents who tell you things like, don't tell anyone outside the family what's going on. And it includes abusive partners who do the same thing, or people who cheat. They know that's going to hurt you. When they're hiding behaviors, they do it because they know it's going to hurt you. That's intentional. They don't deserve forgiveness unless they change that behavior and show significant remorse. Number 2, the people you put up on pedestals, the people who are in high stations of regard or respect or power in your life. Now, hear me out. We tend to put people on pedestals, people that we really love or admire, celebrities, politicians, doctors, therapists, whatever, parents. We put them on pedestals. And then when they get something wrong, we tend to forgive too quickly. We tend to drop the accountability because of the attachments that we have for them, because of the reverence that we have for them. We don't question them at all. We go, oh, you know what? You're so right. You're back in. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I'm sorry that I was even upset. I forgive you. That has to stop. Okay. People in positions of power, people at the top, people who you revere and you have a lot of respect for, they're humans just like you. So when they step out of bounds, they deserve to be held accountable, the same as anyone else. It doesn't matter if they're your parents. If you're wrong, you're wrong. You need to acknowledge that you're wrong and then apologize for it so that everyone can have closure and move on in trust, that there is mutual respect and compassion and understanding. Being too emotionally flexible with someone you see as above you doesn't do them any favors, and it doesn't do you any favors. It just creates more dishonesty. Thirdly, we tend to forgive people with a shared history too quickly. And you need to understand something. A shared history does not mean you owe someone forgiveness. It does not mean you have to forgive someone, that you have to let them back into your life, that you have to just kind of glaze over anything that they've done wrong to you. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the same as the people that you put on pedestals of power or reverence above you. People with a shared history, it doesn't matter how emotionally attached you are, they deserve to be held accountable as well. If they keep crossing the line, they have no right to do that. Being too empathetic with someone like that is not a noble characteristic. It's a foolish characteristic. So if your best friend keeps disregarding you, keeps demeaning you, keeps being disrespectful to you, that shared history doesn't excuse it. You need to hold the line, hold them accountable. And if they do something terrible, that's it. No excuses. Now, of course, this goes without saying, any of these people who do any of these kinds of things, who are any of these kinds of positions, they can always earn forgiveness by actually changing the behavior and showing significant remorse. And remorse is not just acting for a few months like they're a different person. It's consistent. And it also is coupled with communication in which they say to you, while making eye contact, I was wrong. I screwed up. That was bad. I should not have done that to you. Coupled with the changed behavior. That is the kind of person who deserves your forgiveness. Someone who feels remorse because they can have compassion for you. They can have empathy for the emotional effect that their behavior or their words had on you. Okay? That's the person who deserves your forgiveness. Now, how do we do that then? These nasty online gurus in these spaces with this blanket forgiveness crap, which a lot of the times, spoiler alert, is gaslighting. And it's like borderline abuse apology. How do we actually do forgiveness when we do find someone with that remorse who does deserve our forgiveness? How do we do that? How do we actually forgive when someone deserves it? Number one, you got to start with radical acceptance. Radical acceptance. And that means fully accepting what happened, how it affected you, and the role that everyone played in it. So let's say for me, my mother's dead, so there's really not much to forgive. However, I was just thinking the other day, even if she were here and she now asked me for forgiveness today, I would tell her no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not unless you sit here in front of me and you list the things that you did wrong. You list them. You list at least 5 major things that you did wrong to me. Say it. Look me in the eye and say what you did. I would never forgive her. And why? It's because I have radically accepted the decisions that she made, the conscious decisions, the intentional decisions that she made to damage a child. I don't even care about all the shit she did to me after 18. Let's just talk about the ages of 8 to 17. Let's just talk about what happened in there, a child. So when I radically accept that fully as what it was, a grown woman bordering on the age of 40 years old, mentally and emotionally torturing, abusing an 8-year-old child, I have to accept that. Why would I forgive a person like that? That's borderline psychopathic behavior because she took pleasure in it. So that is what radical acceptance is. You have to look at the whole picture, step back as if you were a third party, outside party, unemotionally attached, and witness the worst possible scene. What would a person from the outside in think about the person committing the abuse? Would they say, oh, yeah, no, that person, let's give them a pat on the back. They didn't know what they were doing. Hell no. That's what radical acceptance is. You accept everything that happened and everyone that was a part of it from a removed vantage point. Now, the second step to that is processing the grief, because let me tell you, on the other side of radical acceptance, there's two things: rage and grief. You need time to process both of them. The rage is really easy and quick to process. You can sit down and write something. You can go out for a run. You can get on the phone. You can cry for a weekend and eat a bunch of ice cream. The rage can be processed and burned out of your system pretty quickly, but the grief, it's wave after wave after wave. It's death after death of all these layers of who you thought you were and who you thought the other person was. Okay. All of that has to be a part of the forgiveness process if you're actually going to forgive. You see why I said it can only be given to like really, truly honorable, remorseful people? Part of this is why there's no escaping the grief. You got to get through it. Okay. You got to accept the death of your abuser, who you thought they were, who they are, and all the lies you told yourself in the process before you can truly forgive. And that includes forgiving yourself. You have to take time to process that grief. The grief of you getting it wrong, of you embarrassing yourself, the grief of that shame and that guilt. All of that has to be processed. In that space, that's when you look at the big picture, the big picture. Once you've accepted everything, you've accepted your pain, you've given yourself some time to process so you can have a bit more logic and reason and stability when you're looking through the ultimate choice, which is this: do I forgive this person? Do I forgive him? Consider the bigger picture of that now that you're on the other side of the heavy lifting, right? Is this forgiveness for you, or is it for them? Who is it for? Who is it for? Is the person on the other side showing remorse? That's when you ask this question, because if they're not showing remorse, what is the purpose of the forgiveness? How would it feel to forgive someone who doesn't think they've done anything wrong? Ask yourself that. Does that actually make you feel empowered? Do you feel empowered doing that, or do you feel superior doing that? Because there's a big difference between empowered and superiority. Are you just walking through a hollow gesture because some pretty person online who looks like they have a squeaky clean Zen life and a nice quiet voice like this told you that you should forgive someone? You should forgive if you want to have a voice just like this. Are you following motions on a path that wasn't made for you and that you haven't thought through? Because here's the thing: true forgiveness doesn't come from ego. It's from empathy. It's an authentic gesture from a place of internal need to put a cap on it, to resolve things. So check yourself. Is the forgiveness that you're about to give, is it selfish? Is it from ego? Is it from a nasty place? Is it from a desire to punish or to put someone in a smaller place so that they feel a bit powerless? If it's ego-driven forgiveness, it's pointless. Don't waste your time. Next, I always tell my clients, my one-on-one clients, when we're going through this forgiveness process, because a lot of them come to me and they're like, EB, I've done everything. I've read the books. I've done the courses. I feel at peace with myself and what happened, but I just can't forgive. I just can't forgive. It's often helpful when you hit that crossroads to then reach for stable supports. Reach for stable supports. When we are traumatized, when we have been through abuse, when we are, struggling with mental and emotional health, ups and downs, trials, tribulations, challenges, illnesses, it can leave us really confused, right? You might think that you are forgiving from an authentic place, or that someone doesn't deserve forgiveness, that maybe they do. Getting feedback from other people can be helpful. Getting feedback from stable people can be sublime. So that means reaching out to a therapist, reaching out to a counselor, a coach, joining group coaching, these types of things. You reach out to other humans who are outside and have a new perspective, a different angle, and you ask them, I've been doing this work. I've been feeling these things. What would you do in this situation? Now, you don't have to take it, but sometimes that perspective is invaluable in helping us protect ourselves and keeping manipulative people out who are trying to take advantage of the act of forgiveness. So connect with some stable supports, explain your thoughts and feelings to people who are safe to explain them to, and get some feedback. Next, you need to erase your big expectations. Because forgiveness in self-help and recovery media has been painted as this like romantic final step, people tend to think it's going to have romantic outcomes. They think, well, once I forgive this person, they're magically going to change. Wake up, grow up, be an adult. You giving a sanctimonious gift of forgiveness is not going to change a narcissist. It's not going to make your parents who've been emotionally manipulating you and dismissing you for 40 years suddenly into June Cleaver. It ain't going to happen. Okay. Be realistic about what forgiveness is. It's not going to actually change anything. The only thing it has the potential to change is the way you feel inside about the situation, but it won't change the actual day-to-day living realities of whatever's going on in your life or relationship. And it's definitely not going to change another person. It's not a magic wand, Cinderella. Wake up. Last but not least, if you're actually going to forgive someone, then figure out what that forgiveness looks like for you. Figure it out. For me, it's forgiveness is never going to be a sit down conversation. We're never going to sit over a table and apologize to each other or have a civil back and forth where people explain themselves and everyone's emotions and experiences are valued as equal. It ain't ever going to happen. If I ever get to the point where I feel that it is time for me to forgive them, it's going to be a one-sided conversation. It's going to be me talking myself through forgiveness. It will have nothing to do with the other person, and that's okay. I don't have to speak to them. I don't have to tell them I forgive them. I don't have to let them into my life. None of that. That's what forgiveness can look like for me. Forgiveness may not look like that for you. Forgiveness may look like sitting down over breakfast and having a conversation. It may look like getting the family back together and celebrating Christmas and, being connected, having phone conversations, everyone apologizing and just getting the chance. That's what forgiveness may look like to you. It may look like letting people back in, or it may not. You figure out what you need to feel and how you need to feel it. It doesn't have to involve anyone else. It's your process and your process alone. So remember the realities of that. Stop making forgiveness about some show and dance. If you're making it about some projection, some performance where people outside of you provide some kind of validation or pat on the back or claps from the audience, then again, check your ego. You're not doing it for the right reasons. That's the truth. That is the truth about forgiveness. That is what all these little influencers, these peace, love, and light influencers don't want to tell you. It's the same people who tell you you're not allowed to be angry. It's this gaslighting. It's just washing over abuse, not putting anything in the light, not allowing anyone to be accountable, not allowing anyone to get justice. And where is the healing in that? Where is the equality in that? There is none. There is none. So stop buying the lie of forgiveness. You don't have to forgive anybody but yourself. You're the only person you have to forgive. And you have to do that to build compassion, to build understanding, and build momentum in your healing journey. Them's the facts. Sorry about it. So, if there's people in your life who are causing you pain, stop trying to hurt yourself further by handing them a gift that they don't even want. If they're not showing remorse, then they don't get forgiveness. Period. End of story. It really is that simple. Okay? I hope that that's been empowering for some of you. I hope that's been enlightening. I seriously hope that you take my words to heart and you stop handing forgiveness to people who have no right to it. Okay? Thank you so much for listening today. If you loved the episode, then remember, head over to Apple Podcast and leave a 5-star review. It not only helps other people to find the podcast that need help, but it just helps me, okay? There's a lot of work that goes into all these things that I do, and it helps people find me. It helps me spread the word and get my podcast out there. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you head over to applepodcast.com, leave a quick 5-star review, tell them what you liked about it and how it helped you. If you send me a screenshot of that, then I will actually give you a free ebook. Okay. All you got to do is send in the screenshot once it goes live. You can email it to me, send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send you a free ebook. What's better than that? So thank you again for listening. I hope you got something out of this. I'll be back next time with another great episode. So get ready and make sure you've got your notifications on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until then, keep your heads up, keep your eyes on the stars, and keep moving forward. Bye-bye.